chaos and order, light and shadow, hero and villain. We see these patterns everywhere, on TV, in our families, even in ourselves. Maybe you've always been the responsible one, or maybe you've been drawn to someone who seemed like they were straight out of a storybook. It's not random. These roles go way deeper than personality traits. They're ancient, and they live inside all of us. You can call them instincts, patterns, symbols, but Carl Jung had another name for them: archetypes. They're not fixed labels, but more like invisible scripts that guide how we think, feel, and act. They show up in dreams, stories, myths, and in every superhero movie ever made. From the hero who faces the impossible to the sage who always sees the bigger picture, Jung believed that these archetypes help us make sense of ourselves and the world around us. And whether we realize it or not, we shift between them constantly, depending on what life throws at us. So in this video, we're looking at the Jungian archetypes, what they are, how they show up in our lives, and why they still matter in a world that's constantly changing. Welcome to Mantis Library. This is where psychology meets the stories we live every day. Let's begin. We all play roles. Sometimes we know we're playing them, being the good student, the supportive friend, the quiet observer. Other times we're not sure why we act the way we do, why we're drawn to certain people, or why the same patterns seem to play out in different parts of our lives. That's where Jung's archetypes come in. They're like invisible scripts running in the background, shaping our stories long before we know we're even telling them. At the center of Jung's system is the self. This isn't just your ego or personality. It's the whole of who you are, including the parts you're aware of and the parts you're not. Jung described it as the totality of the psyche, the blueprint of our potential. It's the part of us that's always pushing for growth, for integration, for becoming whole. The journey toward the self is usually not smooth or simple, because to become whole, we have to face the parts of ourselves we'd rather ignore. That's where the shadow shows up. This is the part of you that holds everything you've pushed away. Your jealousy, your anger, your fears, even your creativity and desires that didn't fit the mold. Jung said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. The shadow isn't evil, it's just unacknowledged. And the more we pretend it's not there, the more power it has over us. Facing your shadow doesn't mean becoming someone else. It means becoming more yourself, with honesty and self-compassion. Then there's the persona, the mask we wear. It's how we present ourselves to the world. Polite, put together, maybe even impressive. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. We need a persona to function in society. But problems show up when we start believing that our persona is the whole truth. When we become so invested in being the perfect employee, the ideal partner, the funny friend, that's when we lose touch with who we are underneath. As Jung put it, the persona is that which in reality one is not, but which oneself, as well as others, think one is. Inside each of us, according to Jung, there's also a kind of gendered balance. For men, the anima is the inner feminine, linked to emotion, intuition, and connection. For women, the animus is the inner masculine, connected to logic, strength, and direction. These aren't rigid categories, and Jung wasn't saying men can't be logical or women can't be intuitive. He was pointing out that we all contain both, and the more we integrate them, the more balanced we become. When ignored, these inner figures can show up in projections, falling for people not because of who they are, but because they reflect something unresolved in us. The most recognizable archetype to many of us is the hero. We see it everywhere. Harry Potter, Katniss Everdeen, Simba, Frodo. But the hero isn't just in movies. It's the part of us that wants to rise to the challenge, to prove our worth, to overcome. The hero fears weakness, and so it strives. This can be inspiring, but it can also burn us out. If we only identify with being strong, we'll reject the parts of us that need help or rest. Real transformation doesn't come from winning every battle. It comes from learning what the battle is really about. Beyond Jung's core archetypes, modern psychologists like Carol Pearson expanded on his ideas, offering a broader lens to understand the human journey. Take the innocent, for instance. This archetype longs for safety, happiness, and simplicity. It's that pure, hopeful part of us that believes life should be good. The innocent isn't naive, it just trusts easily. But when that trust is broken, the innocent can get hurt, and that's when we shift into another archetype, the orphan. The orphan knows what it feels like to be let down, not to fit in, to be left out. It craves belonging, but fears rejection. The orphan is deeply relatable. It's in the part of us that wants to be seen and loved without having to pretend. As Pearson puts it, the orphan archetype calls us to develop resilience and empathy. That pain, when faced, becomes strength. Sometimes we channel the caregiver, the part of us that wants to help, heal, and protect others. It shows up in parents, nurses, therapists, friends who drop everything to help you move. But this archetype also struggles. It can become a martyr, giving too much, losing itself in the process. When we start feeling resentful for being too nice, it's often a sign that the caregiver needs to set some boundaries. Then there's the explorer. This archetype doesn't want to be boxed in. It craves freedom, newness, authenticity. You can feel the explorer rising when you get restless, when routine starts to feel like a trap. It's the drive behind traveling solo, changing careers, moving cities. But the explorer also risks running away from discomfort, from commitment, from self-reflection. The journey outside needs to be matched by one inside. And sometimes we rebel. The rebel archetype is fed up. It wants to break the rules, tear down the old, make space for something new. Rebels shake things up. They speak truth when it's inconvenient. But if not careful, the rebel can start destroying for the sake of it. It's powerful, but it needs a cause worth the chaos. We all know the lover, the part of us that longs for connection, intimacy, beauty. It's not just about romance, it's about passion, presence, feeling alive. The lover wants to merge, to feel deeply. But in its shadow, the lover can lose itself in others. It can become needy or addicted to the feeling of being desired. Jung believed that real love wasn't about finding our other half, but about reconnecting with the lost parts of ourselves through others. Next up, the mother. And no, this isn't your actual mom, though she probably qualifies. The mother archetype shows up in many forms. She's nurturing, protective, full of life, but can also be smothering or overwhelming. Think of nature itself, beautiful and giving, but also unpredictable and destructive. This archetype represents both creation and destruction, birth and death. It's that part of us that wants to protect, care for, and comfort others. But if we're not careful, it can tip into control or even self-sacrifice. You've probably met someone who always takes care of everyone else and forgets to take care of themselves. That's the mother energy when it's out of balance. And even if you don't see it in yourself, it's in there somewhere, quietly influencing how you care for others or how you expect others to care for you. Then there's the wise old man or wise old woman, the classic mentor figure we all recognize from every book or movie ever. Gandalf, Dumbledore, Yoda, Grandma who always knows what tea you need. This archetype represents deep wisdom, guidance and insight. It's also the calm voice in our head that knows we already have the answer. We just need to listen. The wise old figure is often connected to intuition and knowledge that comes from experience. Jung called this figure the manner personality, meaning someone who holds extraordinary insight and influence. But even this archetype can go wrong. If you think you're always the smartest in the room or feel the need to lecture everyone, congratulations, you're falling into the trap of arrogance disguised as wisdom. True wisdom knows its limits. It knows that sometimes saying, "I don't know," is actually the wisest thing you can say. Now, let's stir things up with the trickster. Everyone loves this one, until they don't. The trickster is the mischief maker, the rule breaker, the one who throws a banana peel into your perfect little plan and makes you question everything. This archetype shows up when you least expect it. It's the friend who challenges your beliefs just to see how you react, the co-worker who always plays devil's advocate, or even that part of you that decides to quit your job on a random Tuesday. And here's the thing, tricksters aren't just there to cause chaos. Sometimes they reveal what's broken, so we can rebuild it better. Jung described the trickster as a collective shadow figure, which means they bring up everything we try to avoid or ignore. But the result? Growth, change, freedom. If you've ever laughed during a disaster or turned your worst mistake into your best story, thank the trickster. Then we have the jester, the life of the party, the class clown, the one who can make everyone laugh when the room is tense. The jester believes that life is meant to be enjoyed. They fear boredom and take pride in bringing lightness to heavy situations. But underneath the jokes and sarcasm, there's usually more. Many comedians talk openly about using humor to cope with pain. And that's the heart of the jester. They remind us not to take life too seriously, but also hint that laughter is often our best armor. As Charlie Chaplin once said, to truly laugh, you must be able to take your pain and play with it. The jester archetype helps us process difficult moments through joy. But if all you ever do is joke, you might be hiding from something that needs healing. The sage is another big one, especially for anyone who's ever gone down a 3-hour YouTube rabbit hole on quantum physics and then wondered if reality is even real. The sage seeks truth. They want to understand, not just facts, but deep truths about life, people, and existence. They're curious, thoughtful, and love asking, why? Their strategy is to gather information, reflect, and share knowledge. But here's the catch. Sages can sometimes get stuck in their own heads. They can overthink, hesitate, and struggle to act on what they know. If you've ever had 20 open tabs on your browser and still felt like you didn't know enough to start, yeah, that's the sage, caught in analysis paralysis. Knowledge is power, but only when you use it. The magician is like the sage's flashier cousin. While the sage seeks truth, the magician seeks transformation. This archetype wants to turn vision into reality. They're intuitive, powerful, and deeply connected to change. Think of therapists, spiritual leaders, inventors, and yes, Even that one friend who can manifest the last slice of pizza out of thin air. Magicians are often misunderstood because they operate on a deeper level. They can see what could be, not just what is. But they can also fall into the trap of manipulation. If you've ever met someone who uses their charm or insight to control people, that's the magician's dark side. Jung warned that power without self-awareness is dangerous. But when balanced, this archetype reminds us of our potential to change not just our lives, but the lives of others. And finally, we have the ruler. This archetype is all about structure, leadership, and making things work. The ruler wants stability. They want order. They fear chaos. In a healthy form, the ruler leads with vision and fairness. They build empires, sometimes literally, sometimes metaphorically. But the risk here is control. Too much ruler energy, and suddenly you're micromanaging everyone, bossing people around, or worse, ignoring the needs of others for the sake of your own rules. The best rulers are the ones who listen, who empower others instead of dominating them. As Carl Jung put it, where love rules, there is no will to power, and where power predominates, there love is lacking. That balance between control and care is where true leadership lies. These archetypes aren't here to label you. They're here to help you uncover the parts of yourself that are already there, waiting to be seen, understood, and embraced. And if you liked this video, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Until next time, stay curious, stay mindful, and never stop exploring. We'll see you again in Mantis Library.